Hi kids, so welcome to part 2 of creating a paper mache pumpkin. So this is how your paper mache pumpkin skeleton would have looked like after the previous session. If you haven't already watched the previous video, go ahead and watch it so that you reach this step and then you can continue from here. So for this video you need paints because we are going to be focusing on painting this paper mache pumpkin. You can use poster colors, acrylic colors, oil colors, watercolors, anything that works for you. You'll need a paintbrush, a cup with water in it, and a palette to mix your colors. So first I'm gonna take blue, sky blue, which I'm gonna use to paint the sky, and also I'm gonna put in a bit of white in the palette. So I'll mix some amount of light blue and white, and I'll paint the second, fourth, the bottom quarter of the background is going to be dark green. The second quarter of the background is going to be that mixture of white and light blue which I mentioned. The third quarter would be the regular light blue, and right on top would be a little darker blue. So I want to do it with some sort of gradient. So you make sure that you pour some white, some light blue in your palette and you mix it well. For the pumpkin I'll be using orange. For the stalk I'll use green, so make sure you have these colors as well. And for the bottom grass I'll also be using an additional color which is yellow. So if you don't already have these colors next to you, just go and quickly grab them and come. So if you have one brush, it's fine. You can wash the brush between colors, but preferably have more than one brush if it's possible. So for the first step, I'm going to use that light blue and white paint and color the second quarter of the painting. So it's the reason I'm not starting off with the bottom quarter and I'm doing the second quarter first is because it is so much more easier when you start with the lightest color first and you progressively go towards the darker colors. If I would start directly with green, then the paint on my paintbrush, there would still be some remaining green left on the paintbrush, and it would be very difficult for me to clean it before starting to paint the light blue. So this is the first layer of light blue, and this light blue is like blue mixed with white. So for the second layer I'm going to use the regular light blue, mix it with little bit of darker blue, just a little bit, so that the shade of blue is darker than the one I used over here. You can keep mixing, creating different colors till you're happy with the color that you have made. So that's the dark blue, the light blue, and the next color is going to be a little mixture of dark blue. Little dark blue I'll use and mix it with light blue so that the color is slightly darker. You see, you can make out the difference between the light blue and this new shade which has a bit of dark blue as well in it. So I'm painting the third quarter of this background with this shade. Now that this is done, I'll be using a more darker blue for the upper fourth. So I'm still mixing it with light blue because I don't want it to be too dark, but I'm also mixing a lot of dark blue in this, more than what I had mixed in the previous shade. If you want it to be darker, you can mix more dark blue. If you want it to be lighter, you can mix more light blue. I put it on the background and I see that it is darker and it looks nice, so I'm going to carry on and paint this entire upper quarter with this color. So we have completely finished painting the top 3 quarters of the background, and for the bottommost quarter I'm going to be using a dark green. Can be any shade of dark green, and similarly I'll paint this entire layer dark green. So the background is almost complete. A little later I'll add a little more detail to the grass that is the on the green, but for now I'm very happy with the way it is, and I think I'm going to go ahead and start painting the pumpkin now. So for the pumpkin I'm going to be using, I'm pouring some orange on the palette, some yellow on the palette, and some red on the palette. So first I will take the orange and I will paint all the area between the cotyledons, or between the part where you put the paper straws. The entire depressed area of the pumpkin I will paint orange right now. So the second one's complete and I'm moved on to the third. Just two more left. The third one's complete. I'm moving on to the fourth one. Fourth one's done, and moving on to the last and the final fifth one. So all the parts of the pumpkin that are not raised have been painted. Now it's time to paint the borders of each cotyledon, or the raised part. So for this, I'm going to mix the orange with a little bit of red so that it's slightly darker than the color used for the rest of the pumpkin. And I'm doing this because I wanted to kind of stand out and border it well. So that's the red and that's the orange, and I mixed both these colors to get a color that is slightly darker than the rest. Let me just apply it and try it out. Yeah, I'm really happy with the way it looks, so I'm gonna go ahead and paint the entire raised part of the pumpkin with this color. So we almost finished with 3 and just 2 more to go. Take your time, kids, to finish this. There's no hurry at all. Feel free to pause whenever you want to. Okay, so let's finish the remaining 2 right now. So now that the orange is finally done, I'm going to use the same green which I used for the bottom 1/4 of the background, and I'm going to use that to paint the entire stalk of the pumpkin, this green color. So I've painted the entire stock dark green. I'm going to mix just a little yellow in the depressed part of that stock. That is the part that's not raised, just to give it a little bit of shading effect and to, a bit of detail. See how much of a difference it makes, just that small little bit of yellow in the green. That's amazing. I just want to add a little more detail to the grass here, and for this I'm going to be using my finger. So uh, since the entire grass is a dark green, I will mix little dark green and yellow, make it a lighter green, and use my finger to kind of make circular structures wherever I want to randomly on the grass with this lighter green. That's a mixture of dark green and yellow. Just gonna add a little more yellow for circles now, so it gives a little bit more shading. Yellow, green, it doesn't necessarily have to be the same color throughout. It can be dark green, adding a bit of yellow, I'm adding a bit of light green. I just want some sort of character on the garden bed on which the pumpkin is placed. The painting is almost done. Our paper mache pumpkin looks amazing. Just adding in a little more details using yellow and kind of making fingerprints. These will be like small flowers. And I love the way it looks. It's amazing. So we are done with this painting. I hope you all had an amazing time learning how to create this paper mache pumpkin. I enjoyed teaching it to you, and please use the techniques to create more paper mache stuff as well. Bye.